If you would like to get your song reviewed, dear listener, there's the filthy capitalist option. As Sori says, $125 gets you straight to the head of the line. You don't have to be a part of the alliance. You don't have to be part of the group.
Wait a minute.
And the biggest thing is you don't have to wait. You hop, skip, and jump right in front of everybody. $125 gets you there. You do that 3 times, and then get mashed down to the $75 rate for perpetuity.
Yes!
Also, there is a band review option. So if you've got a band and you're trying to get your band some exposure, hit me up at vinsori@gmail.com, and I'll show you the details about how to pull that off.
You can also jump on Patreon, and there is a option on the tiers to be able to get your band reviewed. Yep. Obviously, we can't lie to you, so we can't guarantee a positive review. Get what you get.
It's just rubbish.
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 That's British for garbage.
My favorite is a community option. $1 at the gate gets you in at Patreon. You get to join an alliance. The alliance joins their points together, and that helps determine what songs that we do.
The alliances hang out on Discord.
Message me on Patreon to get the link.
And they do all kinds of other cool things. They do Minecraft, Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah. It's really a community within the community. Anybody can go on the village, facebook.com/Vin and Sori. There's 160,000+ people on the channel. What's cool about the Discord is that it offers a real opportunity for community connection, friendship, that type of thing.
And it's on Discord, so if you're not a Facebook person, it's for you.
You start off at $1.
Right.
Plus you get exclusives. Sori and I are working on a song. So the first 15 seconds of that was on Patreon. Also, at $15 tier and above, when we actually debut the video, they're going to be there live with us. There you are, dear listener.
Buy our merch.
Buy our merch indeed. A child shall lead them.
To buy our merch.
All right, dear listener.
We are doing a DJ stream. You guys know what that means. That means song after song after song after song is all chosen by the big homie. This time it's DJ Mark.
DJ Mark.
This is what he looks like down here. Woo!
Gang, gang, gang. Still trying to figure this shit out.
Babe, just pretend you're pointing at this. A little bit more. A little bit more.
It doesn't work.
There you go.
There's DJ Mark.
All right. So the next song up on our list is I'm very excited about this because I'm realizing I like Senses Fail.
I too know this is true. All right. Senses Fail. Senses Fail. The name of this song
Lungs
is
Like Gallows.
Lungs Like Gallows. Very interesting song title. I am certain that Ben Webb is going to love this song. Lungs
Turn
Like
it up,
Gallows.
Ben.
Senses
Turn it up.
Fail. Turn it up, Benji. Wait, where'd it go? There you go.
Lungs Like Gallows.
I can't plan to prove to myself that I can't matter to somebody else. Is what makes a man pictured on his hands. You put your faith in the desert sand. The wind is solid flowers. Gallows deep inside my lungs. That's where I hung ambition. Is it love that's knocking right on my back door? Because I've been breaking mirrors since 1984. I walk up to lights, I spill salt on salt, and I open my umbrella, even when I am enjoying.
Oh no!
I can't play, not for the cause, but usually give up the person I was. Holding my breath, blowing up, everything went to hell. So now I steal back pennies from
it yet.
Yeah,
Okay,
bitches.
you guys, I think I've told you guys a story before, but I have to say it again. Okay, so you guys know my family was very strict growing up. We didn't know about superstitions, none of that. So I had no friggin' clue about any superstitions. But my mother used to have like these
Witchcraft.
she had these big like chests that like would squeak open, and they were filled with all kinds of costumes and umbrellas and wigs and all kinds of funness for us to try on and do all kinds of different acting and stuff with. That's so interesting. It was such a great idea. It was a lot of fun. Anyway, so my mom used to do this thing where she would take the umbrella and she'd whip it open, and then she'd stick it down, and she'd do like these different little things. So, or maybe I saw it on a show. My mom was always doing different little fun things like that. So my mom had company over, and I had no clue, but the woman was extremely superstitious. I had no clue. I took the umbrella, this big ass umbrella, and I came up the stairs, and as soon as I got up the stairs, because I was about to start an acting thing that I was just going to do in front of my mom and her company. And so I came up the stairs and I went, and I opened the umbrella, and the woman was like, and then I, tipped it down, and I started doing a little, and my mother was like, "Sorry, what are you doing? Why would you do that?" And I got yelled at, I got sent away. And then my mom came to talk to me later. She was like, "Why would you have done that to that woman?" I'm like, "What are you talking about? I was trying to do a little act for you guys and for like entertainment." And then she was like, she was superstitious. I didn't even know what the word meant. I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And then she's like, superstitious, where people get very afraid that bad things are going to happen to them if they open an umbrella in the house. I'm like, "Yeah, but Mom, that's clearly not true. If you open an umbrella in the house, like your life is going to..." And then that's when I started asking my friends, because my friends weren't Christians. So I could get all the scoop on a lot of stuff. That's where I got all of my information. I was like, "Shannon, what is this superstitions? What is that?" She was like, "Oh yeah, it's real bad. Like if you walk underneath a ladder, then I think it was like 7 years bad luck. If you break a mirror, 7 years bad luck." And I remember thinking, holy shit, if that's true. Like I was always very klutzy growing up, and now I realize that's just lack of mindfulness because we have one child that's very klutzy, and I'm like, wait a minute, you need to slow down and pay attention. So I started thinking, well, perhaps the reason that I keep tripping over things and breaking more mirrors and breaking is because like the bad luck streak. And then I said, nah, that's stupid. I don't believe it.
Yeah, it's a chicken or the egg scenario. If you are the type of person that breaks a mirror,
right,
you're just an absent-minded person.
Right.
So all the absent-minded people got together and said, "No, it's not that. There are forces outside of all control."
So
I accidentally broke that mirror, and now I'm being completely mindful, and everything is. Yeah, I was at work one time. I was just starting out, and the construction people were working on something, and they had the ladder set up by the door. What? So everybody was going through the other door
because nobody wanted to. Well,
they were taking the long way.
That's rude anyway to go underneath somebody's. Are they on the ladder?
Oh, no. They had set it up there because it was a pretty big job up there, and they were taking shifts or whatnot. And I was like, this is dumb. So I just walked. There was a collective gasp on the floor. And I knew step on a crack, you break your mother's back.
Yeah.
I think I knew about the mirror thing. I didn't know about the ladder thing. I didn't know about the umbrella thing. So there was this collective gasp. And I'm like, what the hell? They're like, "Vincent, you stepped under the ladder."
Fix it?
Vincent. "You stepped under the ladder." And I'm like, somebody explained, remember Mike? My
yeah.
friend? He explained it to me. I was like, oh, so I went and just stood under it. I stood under
You
it.
would do.
I stood under the ladder.
Even if it did bring bad luck, you'd still do it.
All those poor people, they were charming. It was great. It was a wonderful situation.
You know what? You should have called out sick the next day.
I know. So I think this guy's talking about he's had it rough since he's been born. Because he's been breaking mirrors since 1984, which I'm presuming is his year of
when he was born,
his year of birth.
Yep.
So he's had a hard time of it. He's had a hard time of it. This guy.
Yep. It sounds like. Well, it was sad that beginning.
For myself.
I give blood to prove to myself that I can matter to somebody else. That was a sad line, I thought.
Why is that a sad line?
Because he doesn't feel like he matters to anybody. But if he gives his blood, then somebody's in a life or death situation, and they need his blood. So he's needed by somebody else if he gives his blood. Like the hoop that you have to jump through to get that thought process because you feel that unimportant. Yeah. I used to donate blood all the time when I was a teenager. Once I got my license.
Feel important?
No, not to feel important, but it did make me feel important.
It did make... So you didn't do it initially to feel important, but then it made you... Did it evolve to feeling important at some point?
I mean, how can it not feel important to begin with? Like, I was 16 years old. What are 16-year-olds doing? I'm taking my car to go drive and donate blood as often as I can for other people.
So you felt like you were saving the world.
Yeah, I felt like I was doing my part, And then I went to donate plasma too, but they pay you, and you couldn't just donate the plasma and plus this where you donate plasma in Lewiston.
Yeah,
it feels like somebody's gonna screw up and you're gonna land with some very, very terrible
horrible
disease. Yeah.
I
so I walked in there and I was like, yo, and then like the nurse that was signing me in was talking to me, and it was like this, just like she just had smoked a cigarette and didn't even bother to put a Tic Tac or anything in. So that made it even seem like, come on, I mean, like, try, you know what I mean? And just the whole place didn't really look, so I was like not comfortable with the place anyway. And I had just had my my second hole pierced, and did you ever have a piercing? I didn't realize that you can just say no if you got it done at some professional place. They're talking about, did your friend pierce it in their bedroom? And
right.
is there a problem?
Right.
And I said yes, I had a piercing, and that it was at Piercing Pagoda. And they said, well, we need paperwork proving that you had it done there. And I was like, you need paperwork proving that I had it done there? And she was like, yeah. And then I was thinking to myself, I could have just lied and said I didn't. So the whole thing was just, and then I realized that you couldn't donate it. You couldn't donate it. You had to get paid. And they were looking at me like I was crazy because I wouldn't want to get paid.
You didn't want the money.
But I didn't want the money. I wanted the feeling of giving something, of my life to somebody else.
Yeah.
I didn't want that robbed from me because I got $25 or whatever it was. See what I mean?
Well, I used to hear people all the time talking about,
mad people were doing that to pay off their cars,
rent or whatever.
Yeah, it was a good amount of money.
I'm like, if I would have had Ben Webb at the time, it would have been, something was bugging me about that, and then I was like, what a fucking crazy system we're in. People have to give their lifeblood
to be able to pay
in order
off.
to pay rent. Holy shit, we are in a brave new world. This shit is insane. That I can matter to somebody else is what makes a man the dirt on his hands. Don't put your faith in the desert sand. The wind is always blowing. There are gallows deep inside my lungs. That's where I hung ambition. I think when
I don't understand that line, but that it makes me feel claustrophobic hearing those lines.
I don't think
there are gallows deep inside my lungs.
I don't think he's talking about like literal blood though. I think it's his art form that he's talking about. When he says he gives his blood to prove that he matters to somebody else, because the next line is what makes a man the dirt on his hands, meaning his labor, his work. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, and I took that as the bad things that you do. That's what made you dirty?
No. I think he's talking about, the work, the labor, because at the end of the day, your hands, traditionally speaking, back in the day, your hands would be dirty and grimy with the day's labor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
In our context, it's true. Like one of the aspects that defines manhood in the modern, especially in America, is your ability to produce.
Right.
And
right.
And how that all. It's funny because, like, I think the working thing is kind of universal, but up here, one of the real markers is whether you own a home or not, or whether you're paying a bank to live in your house.
Yep.
Because that's really what...
Right. No, you're right.
And to me, like, I can't even understand that mentality. Like, I'm not saying it's wrong or right. I'm just saying they're all different subcultures that have these markers of what makes a man or whatever.
Yeah.
And to me, I would rather... Yeah. I'd rather pull out, $125K on a small business loan. Than a mortgage.
I mean,
you know
no.
Like,
I totally hear what you're saying. And It's really, really weird because I was raised in one environment, and living with Vin is like it's like another friggin' world. I'm like literally just miles away from where I grew up and miles away from my previous marriage. But it's like, I feel like I'm in another world, because what defined manhood in those contexts is not how you define manhood. And that took a while for me to like switch around, especially when I knew other people were like, how come you don't have this, and this thing? But like now I'm like, even if you never got those traditional markers of what they see to be manhood, there are very real things, you know what I'm talking about, that is definitional of manhood, namely protecting women. And there are people that will not do that. Yep, they have their house. You know, they made their marker. They're a man. They have a house. But they won't protect women. It's crazy. But I've seen you in action. And I know that the story to you look at that story as kind of like a failure situation. But I'll never see it like that. I see where you're coming from. We were in a parking lot. Vinny and I weren't together at the time. I was with my ex, and we were at a store, and there was this guy that was just berating this woman in the parking lot. And I was so angry. Every time I see something like that, I get so angry and I want to do something about it. But I was there with two, I'll say men, you know. Vinny was a man. So I was there with two males, and I was like, what's going to happen here? And, you know, everybody in the whole parking lot wasn't doing anything about it. Vinny's the only one that started doing or saying anything about it. And then the guy, like, stopped, you know, like once he realized that there was some tension coming from you. And I get your point. Like, she still has to go home and she has to face him after that happened in the parking lot. But at the same time, somebody said something. Like, I get it. Like, but my thing is, she's getting shit from that guy all the time. So once a stranger stood up and said something, that's something. And of course, I haven't been in her situation. I don't know. Maybe it was a lot worse for her. Maybe she hated the fact that you said something, but I don't think so. I'd have to hear her say, I hated that he said that, because should somebody be able to be treated like that publicly, and for people to just go on their merry way walking by like nothing?
Yeah. No, I mean,
and I'm sure it's happened to her before, because he was completely comfortable doing that.
Yeah, he was fine talking all that, you know, whatever. But I mean, obviously, from my vantage point, being a person who grew up around violence, struggling with violence, like, he said something. He basically blamed her for it. And when I heard him say that, like, I went toward him, and I was gonna really hurt that dude. And he saw that, and that's when, you know, he changed his
posture
and
changed, and yeah.
But, you know,
yeah.
I know it was very satisfying for you to see, but to me, I'm like, that car ride he's gonna take out all that shit on her.
The thing is, I get it.
He was scared to death, and dudes like that are very. They're not virtuous people. I get it, but the fact that he was treating her like that publicly means she was already going to get shit on the drive back, and I'm sure she knew that. So it probably intensified on the drive back, but in the back of her head, somebody stood up for her. Somebody felt like she was worth something. Somebody said, this is wrong, this shouldn't happen. And who knows if that's ever happened to her in her life. Yeah, I mean, inshallah, she looks at it and says, you know, makes a different decision about who she should be with. Right, that's a thing. Hopefully, you know what I'm saying? Exactly. You can't stay in those relationships, because the thing is, if someone's going to disrespect you to that, they're not going to change tomorrow and say, you know what, gee whiz, why don't I start respecting this person? If they disrespect you and there's not some massive like heart change, and I'm talking that's going to be some supernatural shit, then that's just going to keep getting worse. Yeah, and it happens every time. I've talked to so many girls, and they're like, I was, you know, talking to one girl, he disrespects her, he won't talk to her about, like, he'll just like leave. He won't tell her where he's going. And she knows, she's got an idea of where he's going. You know, he comes back in certain conditions and stuff. So she knows it's not good. And if she tries to question him, nothing, he's not doing it, whatever. And I said, this is not good. And
stuff progressed, and then she started getting hit. And I said, look, if you don't get out of this relationship, like, you might end up dead. Lots of girls have landed dead in situations like this. Don't stay. I mean, he's already hitting you in front of your child.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why when things are getting bad with you and homeboy, you know.
Oh yeah, I had no idea about those patterns at that point, though.
Yeah.
Because I thought
I told him, I said, if you ever put a hand on her, I'll kill you.
I didn't know he said that.
Because he was
but I started feeling very unsafe.
He was
yeah.
throwing shit around, yada yada
Yeah,
yada.
would.
And that
outside my bedroom door.
That was one of the last things I said to him. And, you know, good for him. He didn't do that. But, you know, those aren't, everybody has different definitions of what masculinity is. I think that what we can produce is a major thing for men. And I think, you know, like Perk was talking about, home ownership, land ownership, yada yada yada.
Yep.
It's something visible that other people can see.
Yep. People will die over that.
Whereas,
like, I know somebody that should be retired for their health, but they won't retire because they can't live with the commentary of what they believe that puts on them, that they're not working. Their work is so important to them in their self assessment. And you know what I hear a lot of times? I hear a lot of times where people will say one phrase was said from when they were kids.
What do you mean? A specific phrase? But like, to me, like, the home ownership thing and the work thing, it's something tangible. It's something that you can see. And I think there are qualities that make a man that are invisible, that you can't see. And I think it's a lot easier to say, look at the car, look at this, look at that. You see it in the rap videos. It's all, you know, so in this subculture, it's the house and the whatever. And the rap, in my subculture, it's the chains, it's the cars. You know what I'm saying? It's all these material things that demonstrate, okay, I've got the dirt on my hands, I made it. So when he says there's gallows in his lungs, he's the singer. And that's his moneymaker. That's
where I hung ambition.
That's where he's making the money.
Yeah.
But that's also where he hung all of his ambition. And, you know, the fear of not being perceived as a successful man drives a lot of men. You know what I'm saying? Like, it really, it really does. So, yeah, but see, Ben, I wasn't concerned. I wasn't concerned with making him behave better. I wasn't concerned with his behavior at that point because I knew he wasn't going to change. I was just worried.
Yeah.
I was just worried about my friend.
I think the only thing that it did was stopped him stopped that guy from crossing lines, because I didn't know that Vin had said that to him, but I noticed that he was getting progressively more and more aggressive, and Vin had to leave, and so he wasn't even in the United States anymore. And as soon as he took off on his flight, stuff started getting worse. And and it has stayed like that even now. Like when I was having interactions with him, you know, you sending the kid over there, the kid's coming back over here. It was getting pretty rough. And then that's when you started doing the drop-offs or whatever.
Yeah, I mean,
and then
stuff
changed.
Like that are bitches, man. As soon as a dude steps
like a completely different person, and it wasn't healthy for the kid, for Selah either. I mean, to see that.
Yeah, he wouldn't get out of his house at that point.
Right. Then he started, every time he had something to come out and say, and he's like bigger than me, to like being all intimidating and stuff.
He's bigger than me too.
Yeah, but
you a big bitch. Fuck that guy, man. Yeah, I mean, look, man. But what's happening with this guy is that he's banking a lot of his value of himself as to what he can produce because he's the singer of the band. So on the one hand, he's bleeding for all of us to see. You know, he's bearing his soul in his music.
Yeah.
And it affects people, and so now he matters. But on the other hand, it's like, yeah, but is that the sum total is that the sum total of all of who I am. There's gallows in my lungs. Basically.
Yeah, and look, we see verse 2. He at first he said, "I give blood to prove myself that I can matter to someone else." Like you're saying, it's probably his music. I think you're right now. Verse 2 says, "I give blood not for the cause, but to slowly give up the person I was."
Yeah.
So it's and then he says, "Holding my breath won't help. Everything went to hell. So now I steal back pennies from the well because my wishes failed. I'm screaming at my own shadow to stop living like a ghost." And I think that can happen for not just musicians, but anybody really. Like I hear it happen a lot with moms where they lose sight of who they are because it becomes about just like serving the kids all the time. And they don't even know who they are anymore. Like all the time, like almost 10 out of 10 times that ends up happening. If you're not conscious of that fact, to understand that, look, these little guys are in your life and you're training them and you're raising them, but you're raising them to move on without you. Like this is not your whole life. Your marriage should be first. You have to have things in line. And if you don't, it will, so many times when the kids go off to college, the person's all disillusioned because they're trying to find themselves. Who am I?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So I think it can happen to anybody that puts their focus on the wrong things.
This guy's saying a lot of deep shit.
Yeah, he is. He really is.
He's saying a lot of really, really deep stuff because I think he's trying to figure out, the rock star life, how he grew up, the fact that, you got to have some real terrible bad luck. You know what I'm saying? Like, if your dream becomes a gallows and your main talent becomes what's killing you, like... That's really, really bad luck. And so that's how he like puts them together. You know what I'm saying? So
I have one more question. What's the her? Who's the her? I thought it was good luck.
Wait.
I don't need her. I'm not that desperate. I don't need her. I'm not that desperate.
Oh.
I thought, because is it luck that's knocking right on my back door because I've been breaking mirrors since 1984. I walk under ladders, blah, blah, blah. So give me 7 more. And then he says, I don't need her. I'm not that desperate. I thought the her was...
Yeah,
good luck,
good fortune,
yeah,
whatever.
I don't need her.
Well, the other term for luck though is fortune.
Yep.
That's Josephus uses that word over and over again.
Yeah.
So, but fortune also means money. So I think luck is a double entendre to a degree. Good luck, good fortune.
Yeah.
And he's talking about money, fortune. See what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
What do you get the song?
Oh, jeez, I really like this one. 9.3.
Give it a solid 8.8. Solid 8.8. Senses fail. Gallows in my lungs. This is song number 3. We are in the midst of a mega stream. We'll be back. Vin out.
Sori out.
Go.